Good morning, folks. This is episode 92. Edward Lescalin's and Nikola Tesla's Secrets of the Egyptians by Red Orbs. The dawn of the electron and its flows of current defining technology and war. At the beginning of the 21st century, an era was about to unfold where a body of hundreds, perhaps thousands of years of work attempting to understand the nature of the universe had given rise to an understanding of the atom, giving an understanding and complete scientific insight to basic electron-based technology involving the manipulation of the circulation of propagated waves of current through metal conductors and insulators. Not only would this discovery flourish, but 2 world wars would be fought, and after and during its so-called free and modern scientific evolution, those 2 world wars would be finished in just 30 years. This fermented a new war, the so-called Cold War, political situation experienced for 2 decades, and mostly as a result of the shift of world power due to the events occurring in Nazi Germany during the Second World War. The spacefaring technology it had produced and developed, and the scientists that had designed and created the technology, and most likely evolved around a form of mistrust, most likely partially generated from both the USSR and the Allied recoveries of surviving Nazi scientific documents and research instruments, most of which we are to know little about, most of which still is largely unknown or undiscussed. It was during this time Edward Lescalin and Nikola Tesla did much of their work in which directly involved the secret of the Egyptians. So it would come to pass what Nikola Tesla discovered and created, what most famously became the Tesla coil, but more redundantly should be known as the Tesla transformer, the secret of the Egyptians, not yet be known to you, to be identical to Edward Lescalin's discovery. In Tesla's biography, Tesla claims he saw a magnificent sight of the sun and saw 4 wings on each pole of the circle. In short, the same thing that inspired Tesla to create the transformer, the very object that gave him the idea of the transformer, was also the very idea that gave the Egyptians their life and philosophy, the ever-great sun. Indeed, again, in Tesla's biography he describes a triumph befitting a King Solomon himself, after describing a work-flying machine supposedly that Nikola Tesla claimed that he himself flew in. An interesting term of use, the least after such a great and befitting story of a flying machine. Tesla and ideals in usual discoveries. Resistance is a force in the universe that under a very special condition can be inverted and directed towards the same polarity as the current. When the resistance runs in the same electron flow direction as the current, we have a very special condition like a magnet. The flow of north-south exchange begin balanced in an unbalanced configuration, like in the permanent magnet which is perpetually orbiting currents, except in the case with electrons responsible for the EMF during of the wheel. We have, in short, Ed Lescalin's perpetual motion holder. It is rather not the perpetual motion holder itself, but its ability to use the concept of the differential from north and south exchanging to create the unbalancing required by Newton's law of motion, obtaining an ether field with excess energy. Phase velocities of the Tesla transformer factually exceed the speed of light, c, allowing effect before cause waveform propagation in form of modulated impulse distortions, importantly allowing the transformer to operate in counterspace. Ideal's device, if at all, would work the same. The Earth perpetually orbits as sure as the gravity wave that travels faster than light, allowing it to stay there. A permanent magnet, such as the Earth, is in constant exchange. A constant movement there is exchange at the equator meridian, phi, where north and south poles exchange in their greatest numbers. The north and south are perpetual electronic movement. Their counteractions upon the Earth vary. No energy is required for this permanence, as the forces are balanced. Perpetual motion does not exist, use science. You do not even see the ground that you stand on. It perpetually orbits the sun as surely as a magnet perpetually alternates current at high rates. Just as all matter in the universe does, it moves around at high rate. Not says Edwards, Litzkalin, or I, or Tesla, says Richard Feynman, renowned quantum physicist and Nobel Prize winner and author of QAD. To quote him directly, everything in the universe is in perpetual movement. Counter space, as Tesla and Eric Tollard accurately describes, is a wave that does not travel through space per time. Like a regular sinusoidal traverse wave, it actually travels per space-time as a longitudinal non-transverse wave with an infinite amplitude, and has the ability to connect 2 points in space, where with the waves that Tesla and Litzkalin worked with. Because the amplitude was infinite, e.g. longitudinal, there could not actually be any space in between that required crossing. Exactly hence why these waveforms exhibited an interesting kind of absent resistance, and that is why Tesla describes it as a means to overcome distance, because the waves being generated were not per se transmitting faster than c, but rather generating amplitudes that nullified distance as a significant limiting factor of inefficiency. In a spaceship without a diffraction grating window, the sun is invisible to the naked eye. The sun emits non-transverse waves. The sun emits Tesla's longitudinal waves. You only see the reflections or transverse waves, e.g. standing on the surface of the Earth. You see the sun via the atmospheric interaction, in the same way you observe the aurora borealis in the northern sky pole. Do you see light in a vacuum? No. Light can indeed travel through it, but you cannot see the light itself, revealed by a reflection inside the vacuum. It is because light is not transverse. Matter creates the light when interacting with other electron particles, such as the atmosphere, such as the metal, that are like grating of levels rotating perpetually at differing but fairly high frequency in perpetual balance. The Tesla transformer's operation. Nikola Tesla's transformer works by using a cycling high-voltage AC transformer, neon transformer, in series with a spark gap to define any given frequency of pulsation, usually very high, determined by capacitors charging in parallel to spark gap. Spark gap determines the firing speed of the primary coil, as well as the capacitor. The primary coil inducts current to the secondary coil, and the secondary coil inducts, without means of spark gap introduction in its parallel, a current into the third coil. Most Tesla coils do not have a third winding. This is not a Tesla coil as Tesla designed it. Tesla coil is a magneto-dielectric circuit effect that creates reverse resistance in the primary spark gap area by means of spark gap only, but by requirement of the rest of the circuit being there. Although not well understood, this configuration requirement is because of the shape of the ether and its currents, as are drawn on the Pennsylvania Masonic Grand Lodge on the Norman ceiling. It is these currents that Edward Ledskalnin based the design of his flywheel on. Nikola Tesla achieved a kind of over-unity, using the same vortex patterns as Edward Ledskalnin, as seen on the Grand Masonic Lodge of Pennsylvania. But it wasn't really over-unity. The ether explains it nicely, and claimed it was free energy for the world. Actually, the patterns of the Pennsylvania Lodge ceiling, they are the ether under different magnetic alignments. The Tesla coil is a unique kind of waveguide. As Maxwell stated, and nearly all of the quantum physics field, light, photon, quanta, electrons, spinning currents are made up of the same thing, but cross over in time and space. Electrons can and do travel as faster than the speed of light. Light can and does travel at faster and slower than the speed of light. It is exactly using this phrase variance that Tesla, EDL, and many others achieved such over-unity effects. For it is not over-unity, my friend, it is field unity, an undiscovered field unity, much like the human mind struggles to realize an infinite amplitude longitudinal wave. If indeed Tesla did create it, is at all points in the universe, at all times, theoretically, as its infinite amplitude would give an instant effect, one that science does tell us does not exist, an instant effect, yet gravity itself appears to work this way. Edward Ledskalnin states in his book something that Tesla knew. This is the basis of the secret of the Egyptians. Now I will tell you what magnetic current is. Magnetic current is the same as electric current. Current is a wrong expression. Really, it is not one current. They are two currents. One current is composed of North Pole individual magnets in concentration, and the other is composed of South Pole individual magnets in concentrated streams. And they are running on stream against the other stream in whirling, screw-like fashion, and with high speed. One current alone, if it be North Pole magnet current or South Pole magnet current, it cannot run alone. To run one current, we'll have to run against the other. Edward Ledskalnin, magnetic current excerpt with emphasis added. Masonic links to Egypt, King Solomon, linking Pennsylvania Grand Lodge with Edward Ledskalnin's work and clues. Now I will show you the swirling high-speed streams of north and south are alike. Not only our plus and minus in our electricity, and not only do they not have to be plus and minus, but running plus and minus against each other represents everything that Tesla and EDL were trying to move away from. The Masons know minus through Solomon's knowledge. The deepest Masonic understanding of the Egyptian secret, the swirling ether, Atlantis, Gilgamesh, Christ, their names all speak. The secret to little or no losses. The secret to the creation of new ether waves not widely used in this culture currently. Drop below. Edward Ledskalnin, Nikola Tesla, reverse resistance and vertical shifting, and matching it to the Pennsylvania Grand Lodge drawing. The flipping horizontally is the dropping below by ADL and Nikola Tesla. Dropping below on the vertical plumb level, they are changing the polarity or the direction of the horizontal level by inverting it at 180 degrees. Yet dropping below is like flipping horizontally. This is how the positive field is split from the negative field to release the potential of the red sun. This is the secret of the sun, the Egyptians of Ed and Tesla. Shamash of Sumerian antiquity. The sun is warping the line as it leaves and at a different angle to where it enters, where the lines actually leave. The sun is warping the line as it leaves at a different angle where it enters, where the lines actually leave. Babylonian Earth, early 9th century BC, from Sippar, southern Iraq. The restoration of the sun god's image and temple. This stone tablet shows Shamash, the sun god, seated under an awning and holding the rod and ring, symbols of divine authority. The symbols of the sun, moon, and Venus are above him, with another large sun symbol supported by two divine attendants. One on the left is the Babylonian king Nabu-Abla-Iddina between two interceding deities. The cuneiform text describes how the temple of Shamash at Sippar had fallen into decay and the image of the god had been destroyed. During the reign of Nabu-Abla-Iddina, however, a terracotta model of the statue was found on the far side of the Euphrates, and the king ordered a new image be constructed of gold and lapis lazuli. The text then confirms and extends the privileges of the temple. The tablet was discovered some 250 years later by King Nabopolassar, who placed it for safekeeping, together with a record of his own name. In the pottery box, the clay impressions of the carved panel were placed as protection over the face of the stone. The original one placed by Nabu-Abla-Iddina was broken when the stone tablet was recovered by Nabopolassar. He replaced it with a new one while keeping the original safely in the box with the tablet. Edward Letts Kalnin's Coral Castle Code 7129 6105195. Nikola Tesla 369. Many skeptics claim Edward Letts Kalnin's Social Security Citizen Naturalization document explains the meaning of the numbers away as merely relating to that. This analysis is wrong. The numbers describe Edward's wheel device and prime quadruplet mathematics of ancient antiquity and significantly surprising complexity. It has a high order of significance to Edward's work at Rock Gate, and astoundingly, it seems Nikola Tesla's work too, at Polinas, California. It is far more likely in the exceptionally bizarre case that Ed specially requested or somehow obtained the registration number as a means of preserving the secret of his machine, in much the same way that Holtz, the designer of the Grand Masonic Lodge Norman Room, had been tasked. Much more than simply carving in his Social Security document into the wall. I will now show you Edward Letts Kalnin's machine and step through how 71296105 is not just about Coral Castle, but exactly referring to the machine, as Jeremy Stride at Code 144 has rightly claimed. I will show how it is related to Nikola Tesla's work as well as the Egyptians. I will show importantly the meaning of the 7 and 6 in the code and how they make up the wheel and its functional usage in the North and South poles. I will show how the 7 and 6 are actually very important parts of how the wheel itself generates the balance and unbalance of north and south polarities. You will see that not only 7129, 610, 5195 is linked to S machine, but you will see that it is such a large degree mathematical description of Edwards' wheel and Nikola Tesla's work on the magnetic currents that it can only be to do with the secret of the Egyptians. To do it with the specific geometrical design of Ed's wheel, in the same way that Nikola Tesla described himself. A sea electricity came to me in a vision. Whilst I was looking at the sun, I saw 4 windings wrapped around spaced at 90 degrees each other. Nikola Tesla. The code means 7 lines of force at the center of a right angle. Prime sequence 129 and 6 magnets pole pairs across, creating those 7 lines of force. 7129 6105195 is a very complex code to do with prime quadruplets, as Jeremy Stride claimed, but also leaves clues as to intimate arrangements of physical magnets as well as the angles. There are more astounding coincidences. Crocast mystery. The magnetic arrangement of Edwards-Lexington's flywheel. Are we really sure this is a social security number that has been recorded, or is it far more likely that Edward did hold a secret? This is exactly what he was trying to show, how his wheel worked, and the social security certificate he had made was simply another level of Ed's plan to preserve the secret thereof. The pyramid builders he so boldly claimed he knew, and apparently so boldly carried forward in the plethora of intimate clues he does appear to have left. Tesla's longitudinal waves explained by electoral art at ZBRC. The elimination of the Marconi system, adoption of Hertzian inefficient system of transmission, transverse versus longitudinal. The Abraced Corporate Institute of Technologies of the New Babylonian Tesla non-electromagnetic radio system has potential. Tesla's important developments may have been lost forever. Eric Dollard, world-renowned Tesla expert, Portland Sciences. At certain static electricity potentials, space and time interact differently as do the emanations of waves, e.g. counter space per space-time. It is likely that the so far unpredictable weather system differentials work in this way. We can still not predict the weather with any formula. However, Tesla is actually notable in creating it by himself. Is it possible a device could create billions of kilowatt hours from the weather, from just thousands of kilowatt hours from the power station? Probably. All currents alternate between north and south poles. Direct quote Edward Ledskalnin, magnetic current, stipulating that all currents are resonating between north and south pole, hence why life divides at the poles at the cellular level. Now about the generator. In the first place, all currents are alternating. To get direct currents, we have to use a commutator. Transformers and generators of any description are making the currents in the same way by filling the coil's iron core with magnets and letting the iron core push them out and into the coil. Connect the battery with the electric magnet. It will be a field magnet now. Put the 3-inch coil between the iron prongs and take it out. Do it fast, repeat it, then you will have a steady light in the light bulb. Now you and the field magnet are a generator. Suppose you had a wheel and many coils around the wheel turning. Then you would be making all kinds of light. Lenz's law of induced electromotive force. An induced electromotive force generates a current that induces a countermagnetic field that opposes the magnetic field generating the current. Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion will stay in motion, and an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted on by an unbalanced force. Tesla's own words. I have conceived a means that will make it possible for man to transmit energy in large amounts, thousands of horsepower, from one planet to another, absolutely regardless of distance. I think that nothing can be more important than interplanetary communication. It will certainly come someday, and the certitude that there are other human beings in the universe working, suffering, struggling like ourselves will produce a magic effect on mankind and will form the foundation of a universal brotherhood that will last as long as humanity itself. Nikola Tesla.